Ah, there she is. Okay. Hi, Dasani. Thanks for joining. It's going to be a small group. It looks like it's just the two of you for this evening's session. This session is currently being recorded. So I just started the recording literally as you just signed into the Zoom. So you are welcome to keep your camera off. You're welcome to turn your camera on, whichever is up to you. I am going to be showing a presentation. So most of the recording will be of that presentation. And then this presentation or one of the recordings that I do will get posted to the orientation website for students to be able to refer back to as well. So that's why we're recording these sessions. So I am going to go ahead and do a screen share and then we'll get started. Okay, so can you see that title slide there that says Welcome to Seattle University? Perfect, okay. So just to kind of get things started, I'll introduce myself. My name is Rhonda Mitchell. I am the transfer advisor for the College of Nursing, and I advise the transfer students to both the BSN nursing program and the Diagnostic Ultrasound program. So I advise both of those groups for the first year or the junior year of the programs, and then we transition folks over to their faculty advisor. So we'll kind of get started with a little bit of introductions to some of the other folks that you'll be working with as you go through the program. So the dean for the College of Nursing is Butch DeCastro. He just started with our college last year. So he's been on campus about a year. And so we've been really excited to have him sort of in that leadership role for us, sort of as a new dean and sort of looking through things and has some exciting things in mind as he looks forward to the future for the College of Nursing. So you'll probably hear a little bit about him as you go through the program. Other folks that you might interact with will be some of my advising colleagues. The senior advisor is Carlene Ratcliffe. One of our academic advisors and program coordinators is Robel Kamat. There's myself. Tammy Soderberg, you won't really be interacting much. She does the BSN clinicals, but she is a name that you may hear just from talking with some of the nursing students in the program as well. Grace Laguna is also one of our advising staff. And then Maya Mosteller is the undergraduate program coordinator. And so you'll probably get a lot of emails from Maya since she is the program coordinator. She sends out a lot of information to the nursing and the diagnostic ultrasound students. And then, of course, the folks that you'll work a lot with, the program coordinator for the diagnostic ultrasound is Maret Aziz. Our interim associate dean is currently Jamie Nevada, and then we will have a new interim dean starting this fall. And then for the diagnostic ultrasound, Christina Popchoy is the person that you'll work with for the clinical placements when you get to that point in the senior year. So that's sort of the undergraduate team for the College of Nursing that you might interact with as you go through the program. All right, so kind of looking at that advising model, as I mentioned, you will have an advisor for the first year as transfer students, and then for your senior year, you get transitioned over to your faculty advisor. So the reason we do that is we have what are called professional advisors, which is myself, and then the faculty advisors. The main difference is as a professional advisor, I advise students on higher ed. So I know higher ed processes, policies, procedures, forms, registration, how to troubleshoot things, all those types of things, and sort of help you onboard and navigate to Seattle University and the College of Nursing throughout that first year. I have never taken a diagnostic ultrasound class and I've not ever worked in the field. But that is why we then transition you all over to a faculty advisor for your senior year, right? So that's when you're going to be doing some of that discussion with your transfer advisor, with your faculty advisor in talking about your registry exam, your career discernment, sort of some of the specialties and some of the things that you might run into with your tracks and your clinicals. So those pieces that I wouldn't actually be able to advise very well with. One thing to note is we do require, as the College of Nursing, all students are required to meet with their advisor at least once per quarter, and that's during those advising periods to prep you for being able to and ready to register for the next quarter's classes. And so those will be things that I'll reach out to you about so that you'll know when to start scheduling those appointments. So I'll definitely be helping you navigate that as you get started and get things rolling in the fall quarter. Okay, so what are those advising sessions going to look like? And this is going to be true for your faculty advising and your advising sessions with me. In those advising sessions, we're going to do educational planning. So we're going to map out your program of study, look at courses, make sure registration is going smoothly, talk a little bit about career discernment. Most of that will happen, like I said, with the faculty in the diagnostic ultrasound program and then in that senior year. If you're interested in doing study abroad, that would sort of fall into my wheelhouse. All of us will help you navigate changes and challenges that come up for you, whether that's personal or academic. We have a lot of resources on campus that we can connect you with, things that you might not even realize would be helpful to you or that might be available to you as a student just from the university. So I always recommend students, if you are struggling in any way, please reach out to me early so we can sort of talk about what some of those resources might be to help you sort of navigate whatever those challenges might be going on. Again, whether it's academic or personal. And then, of course, for the advisee responsibilities, right, we really, really want students to get into the habit of checking your student email regularly. We say daily, but that's mostly throughout the quarter because there are things that get emailed out from myself, whether it's updates or notifications or scholarships, right? Lots of different things get emailed out, items from the program coordinator, which could be scholarship opportunities or job opportunities. Lots of things go out to students. So just get into the habit of checking that student SU email regularly. Always review advising information. Be prepared for those advising appointments. So part of that is I send out advising announcements that sort of give you a bit of a foundational information for the upcoming classes and some things to know. And then we talk through any questions and specifics in those advising appointments to prep for registration. Again, being accountable, right? This is your experience as you go through the program. I am here to help support you, but I can only do that if you're reaching out when you have those needs and those challenges come up. I have students oftentimes that don't reach out early enough when they maybe had some choices that were available. If you wait too long, then that sort of limits some of the options that you might have available to you as a student if some of those challenges do come up. So definitely encourage you to reach out early if you have any concerns or challenges at all. And then, of course, like I said, we do require students to meet regularly with their advisor. And so we appreciate if you come to those appointments prepared, which for me just means come with questions, even if you have to write those down, because I'm certainly happy to answer those questions that I can. And if I don't know them right then, I'm happy to research them and help you figure out the answer to those questions. Knowing your degree requirements, and I will show you how to navigate that through the program evaluation, which we'll talk about here a little bit later in the presentation. And then knowing kind of the rules and the policies and procedures, and that's through the BSN handbook. But that is under review right now. So there's going to be a new handbook that will be posted this fall quarter. So things are going to look a little bit different in there, and we'll have things broken out a little bit better for the ultrasound students as well. But really, we are here to support you in your journey to becoming a sonographer. So that's really the way that I view advising. And as I was mentioning earlier, I am a very high-touch advisor. So I will definitely be doing a lot of check-ins and emails and touch points just to make sure that things are feeling okay as you go throughout the program, including above and beyond that one required academic advising meeting that you have to have with me. Okay. So now we'll talk a little bit about the ultrasound program tracks. So if you've attended any of those information sessions and advising sessions prior to this, you would have already seen and should already be aware that we have the 3 tracks, the vascular, the general, and the cardiac. And you should have had notification from the admissions counselors letting you know for sure what track you will be registering for. So hopefully that is the case. If not, definitely let me know. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the programs of study. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail because there's not a lot of difference between these programs of study, but there are going to be 3 of them. This first one is for most of the students in the cohort that are transfer students. And that means the main difference is there are these 3 U-Core classes that are listed here. As you'll see as we go through these classes in the fall quarter, your first quarter, are all going to be the same for all of the students in the cohort. The only difference will be determining whether you're going to be doing the vascular track, the general track, or the cardiac track. And then in the winter quarter, again, all of the students take these 2 classes and then whatever specialty track you're doing. And then in the spring, again, ultrasound and the U-Core, and then whatever track classes you're doing. Again, as I mentioned, the main difference between these 3 programs is going to be in these U-Core classes or university core classes. And one thing to note is for post-bac students, and this will come up a little bit later, there are some differences for post-bac students if you already have a bachelor's degree. So that'll be something that we'll talk about as well. But the one thing that I do want to note is for most of the students who are doing just a typical traditional transfer program, you will have 2 university core classes that are in the summer quarter. And there are times and moments where these summer quarters are not always covered by financial aid. So I encourage you to reach out to Student Financial Services early before you really get set and started with your fall quarter classes to determine if this is a situation for you where you may have to end up paying for these out of pocket. Because a lot of times the summer quarter is not covered by scholarships or financial aid. So if you have some concerns about that, definitely you want to reach out to me or reach out to Student Financial Services and have a conversation with them about your financial aid award or any scholarships that you may have. Otherwise, then you get into your senior year, and that's when you start your clinical experience, which will also go over 4 quarters. And then you have this companion class that happens here. Now, the note for the summer quarter, not being covered by financial aid or scholarships, does not necessarily apply for this summer. And the reason being is because financial aid and scholarships typically cover 3 terms in a year. And an academic aid year starts in the beginning of the summer term and then goes summer, fall, winter, spring. So for most folks, it covers fall, winter, spring, because that's where most of the students take their classes. If you want these classes to be covered, the situation will be you will be applying for the next year of financial aid to cover summer as the first academic quarter for that new financial aid year. So again, that's something that we'll go over more individually in those advising appointments as you have questions about that, and whether that's over the summer or throughout the program. Okay, the other degree program that we have is the post-bac degree. So this is for students who already have a bachelor's degree. The main difference with this is, again, you'll have some things that can move around on this a little bit, and that's something that we'll talk about in any individual sessions if you have questions about what that would mean for you in moving these U-Cores around if you decide you want to go with the post-bac degree. And again, that's only if you already have a completed bachelor's degree. The main thing is this U-Core 3600 is an optional class, which leaves some spaces for these 2 summer U-Cores to be placed here and here. So again, that's something that we can talk about. If you decide to follow this track, again, same thing, these classes would be out-of-pocket expenses. And then again, you can see the same 2 classes for that senior year. So there's really no difference other than these university core classes. And then for the post-bac students, you do have the option to change from the post-bac degree to a post-bac certificate. The only difference is with the certificate, there are no university core classes that are required. We do recommend the U-Core 3600 just because it is that global health specific to diagnostic ultrasound and healthcare. But again, it is not required, it is optional. And again, that's something that we can talk about in those individual cases for those post-bac students who might be looking at changing to the certificate, and talk about weighing whether you want to continue with the post-bac degree or go on with the post-bac certificate. And again, that's something we can talk about in those individual appointments. But again, you can see there's really no difference in any of the other classes or the tracks or the timing of when you would do those classes. Everything else is all the same, and you'll stay with the cohort through all of those major classes. Okay, so we will talk a little bit here about academic requirements and staying in good standing. And this is mostly just to let you know some of those expectations, but also let you know what I'm going to be watching a lot as you go through the program. And that is, as your advisor, I'm going to be making sure that you're staying in good standing and having those conversations if it looks like that may not be the case. So what that means for the academic requirements are we track 2 levels of GPA requirements. We track your cumulative GPA, which is those university core classes, the 2 nursing classes that you're going to take this fall, and then all of your diagnostic ultrasound classes as well. That SU cumulative GPA has to stay at the 2.75 or higher to stay in good standing with the university and to be able to graduate. Now, for your major GPA, we do track that at a different level. Right now, your major GPA has to be maintained at a 3.0 or higher. And that means you have to get an average of a B in all of your classes, in those nursing classes and diagnostic ultrasound classes, to stay in good standing within the program each quarter. And then again, when you get to graduation, your major GPA has to be at that 3.0 or higher to be able to graduate. So all students must pass their nursing classes and diagnostic ultrasound classes with a C or higher to pass and go on and progress through the rest of the program. Now, I have seen students get a C in maybe pathophysiology and then get a C in their physics class in that winter quarter and then go right into a warning status because they're getting a C in those classes and maybe not getting A's in their other classes. So even though you might get a C and be passing your classes every quarter, just know that because of that major GPA requirement, you could be in a position to not be in good standing due to the major GPA dropping below that 3.0. But we watch that very, very closely, and we have conversations with students before they get to that 3.0 threshold. And we also work very closely with the faculty so that I will know if you happen to be struggling with a class or if something's going on where there's a challenge with the class and there might be some concern about that GPA. So we will always be having that conversation well ahead of reaching that point. So it should never come as a surprise to you if you end up in that situation. Okay, so what are those U-Core classes or university core classes? So these are classes that we have as part of the program. They are graduation requirements. They assist you in becoming a stronger interdisciplinary thinker. They help you develop those critical thinking skills for your professional and personal growth. They give you a holistic and global perspective that can be helpful with working with patients and teams that you might be working with in those healthcare settings. And then they also help round out your Jesuit education. So they are some of those graduation requirements. Just because we are a liberal arts school, we have to have some of those liberal arts classes thrown in there as graduation requirements for the degree. Now, that's why they are not required for the certificate. It's because they're then you're not earning the degree from the university. Okay, so the university core or those U-Core classes are broken up into modules. So their module 1 is the 1,000 level classes, and most of those requirements should typically be met with your transfer credits, or if you have earned a DTA or a direct transfer agreement associate's degree. A general associate's degree may not necessarily waive all of those 1,000 level classes. So that's definitely something that we will talk about if we see that showing up in your program evaluation, but we'll look at that in just a little bit. There may be some instances where, and maybe admissions has already reached out to you, where you might have some of those 1,000 level classes to take because there was not a class that you had previously taken that would be able to transfer in as an equivalent, or maybe you did not complete one of those DTA degrees. And so if that's the case, you should certainly be working with the admissions counselor on the steps that you need to do to get those completed. The module 2 are the 2000 level classes, and those are classes for most transfer students that do not have a bachelor's degree that are required to take all of those 2000 level classes, and there are 3 of them. And so again, as you saw in those programs of study, sort of where those all fell at the end of that junior year. Those classes must all be taken at Seattle University. They can't be transferred in from another school unless it's from another Jesuit university. Then the module 3 is the 3000 level class, and all students have one 3000 level class to take, and that again must be taken at SU. Those students that have a bachelor's degree, that is a class that is waived, but again, one that we do recommend, and we'll talk about that specific class in just a second. So the 3 2000 level classes that you have to take are the UCOR 2100, which is a theological exploration, and it has many topics to choose from. So if you've gone in and sort of looked at any of those UCOR class options, you can see some of those classes in there. You may not have looked at any of those because they come so much later in your junior year, and they really may not be on your radar yet. But that is something that, again, we'll talk about when you get to that point for advising sessions. The UCOR 2500 is the philosophy of the human person, so it's our philosophy class. It is the prerequisite to the UCOR 2920, and that is just one topic. It's philosophy of the human person for all the sections that you'll take. Now that UCOR 2500 class is waived for post-bac students only. So if you have a bachelor's degree and you're doing the post-bac degree and earning that diagnostic ultrasound post-bac degree from Seattle University, this UCOR 2500 class is waived. And again, if you're doing the post-bac certificate, you don't have to take any of these UCOR classes. All right, UCOR 2920, Ethical Reasoning in Healthcare. Again, it's one topic for all the sections. It's the same class, just the instructors and the days and times are going to be what change. And again, that prerequisite is that UCOR 2500 class. All right, the required 3000 level class. For diagnostic ultrasound students that are coming in as transfers, you should typically have all of your 3000 level classes waived or satisfied with transfer credits, except for one. And for the diagnostic ultrasound program, that one class that we require you to take as part of the degree requirement is the UCOR 3600. So you may have some other additional 3000 level classes to complete if you didn't have all of your transfer credits completed. I have seen that happen in the past, but for the most part, the majority of students transferring in have all of those 3000 level classes completed, except for the one that's required as a graduation requirement. And again, this class is waived for students that already have a bachelor's degree and are completing the post-bac degree or are completing that post-bac certificate. The program evaluation is Seattle University's degree audit program. So that's where you're going to be able to track what your degree requirements are, whether your prereqs have been met, any of those classes that you're going to need to complete your degree, but it's also going to be where you can track your cumulative and your major GPA. So if you're looking in your program evaluation, you should hopefully have already been able to tell if you have those Module 1 classes either waived or satisfied with transfer credit, or if there are some that are still showing as a requirement that you still need. And again, you should be able to see as you scroll down through your program evaluation, you'll be able to see any of the prerequisites that you may still need to have submitted if you're still waiting for final grades or official transcripts, right? Those prerequisites will still be showing as needed in your program evaluation. So that's a really good tool for you to track where things are with that and to make sure all those prerequisites have been transferred in. So if you're not sure where to find the program evaluation, we're going to talk a little bit about where to find that. I don't go into opening that up in these sessions just because there's some privacy things with that, because I don't have a test student to do that with. So when you log into your My Seattle U portal, and you're going to see some buttons similar to this, and you'll click on the student planning. And from student planning, it will take you to a page that looks similar to this. And you're going to utilize these two options quite a bit throughout your time in the program. The first one, you'll go to your program evaluation, which is again that degree audit system that you'll be able to manage and track all of those prerequisites in your classes and the requirements for your degree, as well as your GPA requirements. The other one we'll talk about here in just a second, but it's to go to your plan and schedule. Speaking of schedule, your fall schedule is going to look like this. So you're going to be taking 4 classes, as you saw from those programs of study. All students in the cohort are going to be taking the Nurse 3205 Section 3 for pathophysiology, and that's a Tuesday, Thursday class. It is for diagnostics ultrasound students only. If you go in and you're looking at the class search and you happen to see 2 other sections for pathophysiology that show up, there's a section 1 and a section 2, but those sections are reserved for the nursing students only. And then the diagnostic ultrasound students take section 3 because the Tuesday, Thursday works best with your diagnostic ultrasound classes and the open lab times as well. You'll also take the Nurse 2520, Section 3, which is Healthcare in the 21st Century. This is, again, a Tuesday, Thursday class, and it is unique in that it will be combined diagnostic ultrasound and nursing students in this particular class. So you'll get to integrate and mingle with some of the nursing students as well and sort of get to know some of the other students within the College of Nursing. The other 2 classes you'll take are the sonography class, which is a didactic or lecture class about your specialty track. And that will be the cardiac, general, or vascular sonography class. And then you're going to have your diagnostic ultrasound specialty lab class, which again will match with your didactic class, which will be the cardiac, the general, or the vascular class. So those will be the 4 classes that you'll take in this first fall quarter. So because there's a little bit of a split in those sections and we have to keep students in particular sections, we have locked the pathophysiology section 3 and the healthcare in the 21st century section 3 so that no other students can register for those sections. So what that means is I will be manually registering you all for those 2 classes and those 2 classes only. So you won't have to worry about registration for those. You're guaranteed spots in those 2 sections, so there's no change to your schedule, and those will be ones that I will handle for registration. You will actually and hopefully be able to register for your diagnostic ultrasound track and lab class. So those classes will be open because only diagnostic ultrasound students can register for them, and you will know what your specific track and classes are by looking in your plan, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But hopefully when registration opens, you all will be able to register for these 2 classes on your own through the student portal. If for some reason you are not able to do that, definitely reach out to me and let me know so we can check in and make sure and see what's going on and just make sure that you are able to get registered for those classes. All right, how to find your schedule. So again, you're going to go to that student planning once you log into the portal. And then instead of going to the program evaluation, we're going to go to the right and you're going to click on the Go to Plan and Schedule button. And that will take you into your schedule. Now, it'll take you into a different view that we'll look at in a minute, but I want to talk a little bit about this particular view. When you log into your portal and you go to the planning tool, you will have 2 tabs up at the top. Now, this has all these others because this is my advisor view, but for students, it'll just say the course plan and timeline. You know, your course plan is going to be your planned classes and where you're going to do all of your registration. But this template and timeline is where I have uploaded a prescribed template for each student. And each of your specialty track classes should show across the fall, the winter, and the spring. Okay, so I want you to just make sure that all of that looks good. I assigned those based on the assignments that I got from the admissions department. So I always like to have students just double check those and verify that those are correct. And you'll be able to see all of these classes are plugged in over the full 2 years of the program. Now, there will be some things that will move around a little bit, whether you're a post-bac student or you're talking about doing UCORs in a little different sequence, right? And so there are going to be some things that you can move around. This is also an area where you can drag and drop classes. There's really not much that moves in the diagnostic ultrasound program, though. Most of your classes are very prescribed as to when and what quarter you can take them in. But where there are options, we will definitely talk about those in those individual appointments. Okay, so when you log into your portal and you go to your plan, you'll see this view. And if you've actually been in here and you've picked sections, it might look a little bit differently. But if you have not, these are going to show all of your classes listed here. And again, the ones you're going to focus on are your specialty track classes. So to be able to pick your section, you're going to be able to click on this View Other Sections link. And when you do that, it will open it up and you will see the section listed there. So you're going to plan your section by clicking on this box. And then when you click on that box, it comes up with a dialog box that looks like this. All of these prerequisites are going to show in this view, whether you have them completed or not. So it just lists every prerequisite, even if you already have them completed. So don't worry if you see these showing up here. But to add that section to your plan so that you're set to register, you're going to click the Add Section button, and that then adds that section to the plan. And you'll be able to see that as you navigate each of those classes. Again, you won't have to worry about the nursing classes because I'll be manually registering you for those. So for those that like a list of step-by-steps, this is a slide that you can do for that. You don't have to take notes or take pictures because I'll be sending out copies of these slides to students. So you can have these to refer back to as well. But essentially it's just following and listing out the steps. The one thing to remember is that once you've added those sections to your plan, you still need to go back and register. So planning a section does not register for the section. And so I'll show you what that's going to look like, and so that you'll know when you are registered for those classes. So when registration opens on June 3rd, so for those folks that have all their holds removed, that have attended these sessions, this button that is currently kind of off to the right is white and isn't going to do anything. Once registration opens for you, it will turn blue like this, and it will say accept terms and register now. So you're going to click that blue button and it's going to register for all sections that you have planned on the left in that calendar view. So if any planned section is full, then you would just know to go in and choose another section. But for ultrasound students, for this quarter, or for this fall quarter, you don't have to worry about that because you're guaranteed spots in all of those sections. So when you get in and you register for those classes, this is what it's going to look like. What's yellow once you have them planned is going to turn green. And then you'll see the green boxes over here on your calendar. So when everything is green and says registered but not started, that's how you'll know you're registered for those 2 track classes. You'll know that I've registered you for the 2 nursing classes because they will look the same and they'll show up green on your calendar view. So holds, I mentioned holds. Right now, if you happen to notice the notification bar above your calendar that goes across the whole screen, that is the area where you're going to see where you have holds. Now, holds may or may not block registration. You currently have a new student advising hold that will block registration. That hold for any student that has attended an advising session, that hold will be removed by June 3rd, so that you'll be set to register for those classes on June 3rd. But as you go through the program, other holds might show up for you, and you'll be able to see what those holds are by seeing here this little white circle with the red line. If it says 0 inside, you have no holds. If you see a number, that's how many holds you have. And then you click on this notifications and it pops up and it will tell you what the hold is and the department that you need to contact to get that hold resolved for you to be able to register. Costs for the program right now, just tuition is about $18,540 per quarter. There are going to be other fees that are university fees and student fees that get added to that. And so you can see some of those additional fees by looking in the tuition. There's a tuition tab across the top of our website. You can go in, there's several pages you can visit. Some of them will give you the list of the different fees for the undergraduate students. It will also have another page that lets you do like a cost estimator, which estimates the cost of books and some other things that will show up for different students as they go through the program. Some additional costs that are going to come up during the program, but are not limited to just these, are some things that you're going to have as you go throughout the program. First one is scrubs. Believe it or not, you will be required to be in your lab class in scrubs, and we'll kind of talk about what those look like in a second. You'll have different supplies that you'll have to get. You'll have your textbooks. As you get into your senior year, there is a health packet that you're going to get, and this is something we talk about in detail at the end of your junior year. But you'll get a health packet that's going to have a lot of different information in it and some clinical requirements. Part of those clinical requirements for your senior year are a background check, access to a Castle Branch tracker. That access is currently $87. Hopefully that will be the same by the time you all get to your senior year, but just know that that cost can change. Transportation to and from clinical sites, any parking fees at clinical sites. At the end of your spring quarter of 2025, you will have an SPI or physics exam. That SPI exam that you'll take in that summer it currently costs $250 for each attempt. Your registry exam at the end of the program, once you graduate, will be, right now, it is currently $275. And then one thing to note for any students who are placed in out-of-state clinicals or any clinicals where you might have to move, so whether that's clinicals on the eastern edge of Washington or in our clinical partners in Oregon or California or Hawaii, all of those, all students are responsible for all of the moving and living expenses during that clinical period. So fall quarter, the first day of class is going to be Wednesday, September 25th. All classes will be in person. There may be a couple of exceptions, but your instructors will let you know what those are, but just anticipate that all classes will be in person. You should have all of your supplies and textbooks and be in scrubs for your first day of lab class. Again, scrubs are only required for that lab class, and it's just to prepare you for being in scrubs and sort of taking on that professional persona, because that is what the program does. Not only do we teach you the academic side, we also are going to be sort of molding and structuring you into that professional setting and how you're going to interact in those professional settings and to be comfortable in wearing those scrubs while you're doing scanning. So all of it is to prepare you to start those clinicals in that senior year, but be comfortable when you get to that point in being in scrubs and sort of taking on that sonographer persona. One thing to note is that COVID vaccinations are not required by the university any longer, but they can be and often are required by our clinical partners. For our clinical partners who have those requirements, there are no exemptions. So those COVID vaccinations may be required for clinical sites. If you have medical reasons for not being able to get the COVID vaccination, this will be handled on a case-by-case basis with the program director and you and the clinical site. We are not able to guarantee any clinical placement if all of the sites require COVID vaccinations, and if for some reason you are not able to get a medical exemption. So just a note that for all students joining clinicals, COVID vaccinations will be a requirement unless there's a medical reason, which is a case-by-case basis. Registration is going to open on June 3rd. It's supposed to open at 9 a.m., but last year it was a little closer to 9:30 before registration opened. So if you're going in and you're trying to get registered for your classes right away, just know that if it's not letting you register right away, just keep trying to register, and then it should let you in. Like I said, last year it took just a little bit for that to actually get open in the system and allow students to be able to register. If you're having any issues and it's later in the day because you're not fighting for sections, you already know what sections you're going to be placed in. So if you're registering later in the day or after June 3rd and you're having issues with registration, please let me know so that I can look into that and we can figure out what's going on. Again, just to reiterate, your nursing classes, which are the pathophysiology and healthcare in the 21st century, I will be manually registering everybody for those 2 classes. And then you will be making sure that you can register for those specialty classes. Again, if you cannot do that or something is blocking you, please reach out and let me know. And this is also the time that I like to remind students to make sure those official transcripts are submitted to your admissions counselor so that all those prerequisites for pathophysiology can be put in place, and all of those prerequisites for getting into those track classes and for physics in the winter quarter are in place early so that you're not having to try to navigate all of that as you get closer to those classes starting. Scholarships is another big question that I get from students. So there are some endowed scholarships. If you look at the College of Nursing website, those applications will not open until this fall. So usually in August or September. If you are interested in getting more information about those scholarships and how to apply, we encourage you to reach out to the Student Financial Services team. They are the ones that house and navigate and manage all the applications for those endowed scholarships. There are a couple of places that we know that students can reach out to and sort of explore scholarships through. So I will be sending those links out to the cohort once the registration sessions get done. So I'll send all of those out in that second week of June. And then I also encourage students to just explore other scholarships on your own as well. Our Student Financial Services team, Google searches, you might be in a particular demographic that might have access to scholarships. So just definitely go out and explore different scholarship opportunities on your own. Don't just limit it to the ones that we send out because there's only a few sites that we have. So your next steps are to continue to follow the orientation modules throughout the summer. You will be getting an email to your student SU email that's going to have a link to the Voices for Change, which is an online student training required for all students. And it basically is going to have a lot of different training about how to promote a healthier and safer campus. And again, this is required for all students to complete. You'll get an email around July-ish timeframe. And the reason that I bring this up here is because if this training is not completed, you'll get a certificate of completion once you go through the whole process. If that's not completed, you will get a hold that will block registration for winter quarter classes if this training is not completed by October. So definitely watch for that and make sure that you take the time to go through that training. It's like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, depending on how fast you read and get through that training. So if you've ever done any online work trainings or through HR, this is a similar type of thing. So just take your time with that, but definitely make sure you get that completed. Also, getting your scrubs by the start of fall quarter. A thing to note here is our campus store is working on changing vendors right now. So if you go into the campus store and are looking at the scrubs just to get an idea of what they look like and how much they're going to cost, you can certainly do that. But there may be some other options available as you get closer to the fall quarter. Scrubs must be navy blue and they must have the logo either embroidered on the scrub top or have a patch from the College of Nursing sewn onto the scrub top. So again, you can buy those with the embroidered College of Nursing logo or just get the patch, and then you can buy your scrubs from anywhere that you can get navy scrubs and then sew the patch onto the scrub top. We do have donated scrubs that get donated every year. A lot of those they all get laundered by the students that donate them or by the College of Nursing if they haven't been laundered already. There are a lot of those that will get donated to the Diagnostic Ultrasound program director. So they might be available as you get a little closer to fall quarter. There are also scrubs that are donated that are part of a student resource closet that are available in the clinical performance lab, which is part of our nursing program. And that is located in James Tower in the Cherry Hill Swedish campus. So if you want, you can certainly contact our clinical performance lab folks and schedule a time to go by and look through the scrubs in the student resource closet and see if there are some that might fit you if you're looking for some donated scrubs, or if that's going to be something that might be a financial barrier for you. So definitely know that we have a lot of students that utilize those each year. And then also encourage you to check out the campus store for additional books and supplies. A lot of students ask, what can I do to be ready for the fall quarter? The main thing that we tell students is refresh your A&P 1 and 2, because your pathophysiology class is going to be all the pathologies or diseases and disorders that happen to those body systems that you learned in A&P 1 and 2. So you learned about what the healthy ones are, and now you're going to be learning about what the disorders and diseases are that impact those. So it's always good to refresh that foundation if it's been a little while since you've had those two classes. Attending the college induction day on the Monday before classes start, so that would be Monday, September 23rd. Again, I'll be sending out an email letting you know more information and specifics about that. And then you can, because I talked a little bit about that health packet earlier, you can review the health packet requirements that are needed before you start clinicals in your senior year by typing in health requirements for the College of Nursing in the search bar on the website. If you're like, that's a little far down the road, that's really not in my purview at the moment, that's fine. That is definitely something that we spend a lot of time talking about in that spring quarter of 2025 as we're starting to prepare you for those clinicals. So again, you don't have to worry about that now, but if you're curious, they are posted on the website, so you can find them there. All right, so any questions? Was a lot of information. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to share the transfer checklist, which will give you a little bit of a view of what those scrubs will look like. So this is just a checklist, and I'll send this out with the PowerPoint slides as well. But basically, if you haven't already, confirming your enrollment, activating your SU email, that SU email will eventually be the only email that I will be able to send information to you through, but I will send you a notification to your personal email letting you know when that deadline will be. But for right now, I'll be emailing both your personal and your SU email. Usually about the end of July is when I have to cut that off. And then all of my notifications will have to go to your SU email. But again, I'll notify you before that happens. Applying for financial aid, making sure you have all those financial aid requirements completed, completing any remaining prerequisite coursework that you might be finishing, submitting those final official transcripts to your admissions counselor so that they can get those all entered, and then submitting your immunization records to the Student Health Services. So we just talked about immunizations and vaccinations for clinicals. These requirements through the Student Health Services are different. Those are university requirements, and there's only a couple of them that you have to have. So definitely know that if you see in your student checklist those immunizations, those are required now and not for your senior year, because the clinical immunizations are different. So definitely make sure you're checking that off of your new student checklist. Completing that Voices for Change, so that training that'll be emailed out in July. This says August, but it comes out in July. And then for policies and processes, if you have any questions, you can refer to the BSN handbook. But again, as you have questions about policies and processes, you can email me with those, and then I can help answer those. To get your student ID card, you can visit the Super Copy, which is in the Pavilion building on campus. But there's also a link on our website that you can go to do all of that online. You can submit a photo, it tells you the requirements, and so you can submit all of that online, and then they'll print and get your SU student ID card ready for you to pick up. And then, of course, getting all of your textbooks in place. And then as we talked about sort of those scrubs, and this is the information on the scrubs, they need to be the navy scrubs for the tops and the bottoms. The bottoms can be pants or skirts. So that is completely up to the student. Right now, the campus bookstore does not have skirts available, but that's where we're sort of looking at vendors and making sure that we can have some of those available for the students that want to use those as part of the scrubs uniform. But again, those will be needed for your lab class as you start that at the beginning of this fall quarter. And then again, you can purchase the ones that are embroidered with the College of Nursing logo already on the top, or you can just get your scrubs anywhere as long as they're navy blue. And then you can just get the College of Nursing patch and then sew that onto the scrub top as well. But any questions about the scrubs or the checklist at all? No? Okay. So that pretty much ends the presentation for advising. So I will be tracking who attends these sessions, and then I'll be removing those new student holds prior to that June 3rd registration date. But any questions at all? No? Okay, well, that concludes the presentation. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email me. If it is something that I can answer, I am happy to answer. If it is something I am not sure how to answer, I will figure out the answer or be able to direct you to the correct person to be able to answer and support you in answering that question. But otherwise, have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you more this fall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You.
You're welcome.